It's Kasim with your daily Google News, and I'm here with the dude that it kind of blows me away on a pretty consistent basis every time we talk. It's JC Hite. JC, thanks for being here.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me. I'm super, dude. I'm actually a little nervous. I love talking with you. You're one of the smartest guys I know, I think.
Well, that's either not true or you don't know many people, but I know that the latter's not true because you've got like maybe the most amazing Rolodex of anybody I've ever run into. And I'm going to do my best here to back into your amazing resume. You've got Hite Digital, which is in Nicaragua, and you say Nicaragua cooler than I do.
Nicaragua.
Yeah, there you go. And you've got over 100 employees, right? What's your staff at now?
So we're right at 180, give or take.
Wow.
180. I think we just hired 8 or 9 more people starting on Monday. So who knows where we're at.
That's
exactly.
Amazing. And this is your second go of it that I know of, because you were one of the owners of a great big agency. I won't say their name. But I used to go head to head with you all the time for Google Ads work and lose as often as not. And then you jumped ship, made an exit, passed the baton, right?
I let them 4 years ago, and it was crazy. I mean, I can tell you a little about the story since we're not going to name the name, but essentially, dude, Wolf of Wall Street had nothing on us. Like, it was bat crazy, nuts, fun, exciting. Long story short, I'm a pretty religious guy, real big family guy, and I was like, dude, I would be embarrassed if my daughter came in here and we were 3 months away from having our first child. And so my wife and I left. She was head of operations, and I had a role in the company as well as head of service. And we went on to start Hite, bro. It was pretty crazy.
I didn't realize that you worked there with your wife. That's interesting. So y'all were already together. For some reason, I had this vision of you like partying hard over there, making your exit, and then becoming like the nice family man. But it sounds like you've always been that good dude.
Dude, so yeah, my wife and I, we've been married for almost 9 years, 9 years, 2 kids. And so, yeah, we got married before originally they recruited her to come work there. And then afterwards, that's when they needed to bring on investors. They were looking for other people, so on and so forth. I had a company, we were partnered with IBM. We were actually dealing with AI and Watson, ended up selling the technology to IBM Latin America called Cognitiva, actually, which is IBM's wing here in IBM Watson's wing in Latin America. They bought our tech and then dug in full time to this agency world, man. So I'm actually fairly new at the agency world. Only been in it about 7 years. And
how many exits have you had?
So this is the second one. So I was there for several years, and then Hite we just turned 4 years old 3 days ago, bro. 3 days.
Yeah. Well, no. So this is your second agency, but how many exits? Because you did an exit on the AI software. You did an exit on the agency. How many other businesses have you sold?
That's two. So I did have it wasn't an exit by any means. I was in real estate before that. We had about 50 houses, and dude, everyone's like, real estate's amazing. Let's do it. And I have like the worst story with real estate. So we got up to 50 homes. I had about 40 of them in one city, small city in Evansville, Indiana. You've never even heard of Evansville, Indiana, Podunk, whatever. And a big factory in the city shut down.
Oh,
and
no.
Basically the whole city went into spiral because of this big factory went down, ended up losing, didn't have to file bankruptcy, bro, but this was the first year we got married. And so my wife and I ended up basically losing everything we had within a year. Dude, I had a Cessna airplane. I had a Harley Davidson. We had a 3,500 square foot home in Nashville, Tennessee. We had a home in Nicaragua as well. And we got married. That's what my wife married into. We got married, lost everything in real estate over the course of that first year. We ended up living in a maid's quarters. If you know anything about Latin America, a lot of times we have nannies and maids that work with us. We lived in the maid's quarters of my father-in-law's house for basically a year of our lives before jumping in and building up our other company, the tech ed company, which we exited to Cognitiva, IBM, and then jumped into marketing, bro. It's been a fun ride.
Dude, what an amazing story that is. And I got to tell you, not to detract from anything that you just said, because I love hearing where entrepreneurs came from. I feel like it's almost archetypal. Every time I talk to an entrepreneur, especially, like anybody who's like on the rocket ship to the moon, like really making it and dialed in, if you dig deep enough and if they're willing to share, there's always that, I call it entrepreneurial PTSD, but there's always that event, way back in the whatever that drives you a little bit. It informs you, you learn from it, but you're also kind of running, you know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to let that happen again. I've got one. It sounds like you've got a really cool one. But it's interesting how it's almost a prerequisite. Like if you're going to be successful, you've got to fall flat on your face hard and then lie there while people stampede over you and then just ground you into the pavement.
Dude, and there's so many like Hite today. I mean, 180 team members. We're debt free. We've never taken on any debt in our life. And I'm not saying good or bad debt, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I will say, dude, we thrived through COVID. Like we got real small, real freaking quick. And if it wasn't for me basically losing my entire life, at 24 years old, I don't know, we probably have a ton of debt right now, and who knows what would have happened. And I really think there's something about the world, call it faith, call it God, call it whatever you want, that really positions us for the future, our future lives. And, I don't know, I think it was a huge blessing for us to be able to handle what we have today. And there's so many things we do based on that fear. I think sometimes, if I'm real, like the fear of losing everything, but also the strengths and positive stuff we learned through that stuff.
Yeah, I have the same aversion to debt for this exact same reason. I lost the whole kit and caboodle because I was heavily leveraged, and I thought I was a badass. I had the house on the hill and the idiot's car, and I was always picking up the check, which was just violent insecurity. I ended up living in an apartment building that the only reason I could live there is because they offer 3 months free if you sign an 18-month lease. And I was going to Costco with my dad's expired Costco card, and the free tryouts at Costco. The Costco in Scottsdale is really nice. So I'm at this like luxury Costco basically, and the way that I'm eating is I'm going to Costco and I'm just like walking around when they had, and if I could scrape together $1.50 from under my car, I could go get the hot dog and the soda. But I was destitute, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because, your
hot dog and Coke was our pupusas. So here in Nicaragua, we had in the neighborhood, we're again at the mate's house behind my father-in-law's house. And in that neighborhood, there was a lady who made pupusas on the side of the road, which are they cost like 50 cents to buy. Yeah. And we would literally how many can we buy today?
Yeah.
And those were amazing times. Sorry, I just did something. Those were amazing times. So.
Yeah. And it's weird that you look back on it fondly, like it was stressful, but so now you've got this amazing agency and you've got this model. So just so give you context, my subscribers are either small businesses interested in learning more about Google Ads or they're agency owners. Yeah. And I feel like you talking directly to agency owners will bring an immense amount of value because you're where all of us want to be as an agency owner, but more importantly, you've built a scalable agency model, which I still insist doesn't exist. Like you've built the unicorn of all agency models, and the direction that you're heading in is exciting. And also it scares me because you're going to come in and disrupt some things and maybe take some margin off the table for the rest of us. So tell us a little bit about Hite Digital and how it is that you're structured.
Yeah, bro. So we actually did this. This is our first, we'll come up on our 1-year anniversary of this model in a week. And so long story short, we are the first digital marketing agency in the United States, maybe in the world, but let's not be dramatic. I don't know every country, but the first legalized FDD in the US. So we're the first legalized franchise model for digital marketing agencies that's ever been created. The only one that comes close is WSI, but they were more in traditional and they're about 10 years old and doing their own thing.
Well, I know the WSI folks pretty well. Their services are all siloed. They're independently contained. It's just, you're buying a brand basically.
That's all you are. In fact, if you go through WSI, one of the things that we found is that they don't give you any product or systems or technology. Right. Nothing's consolidated. It really is just a brand. And so what we found was there's 4, and we can go as deep as you want to, but there's 4 pillars we found of scalability. Because what we started with, let me back up. We started in the white label world, which is where a lot of agencies are utilizing right now. Yep. And dude, we were growing fast. We were on track to be in the top 1,000 and the Inc. 500 list or Inc. 5,000 list, top 1,000. And we were growing. But what we found was our partners, about 20% were growing, about 40% were staying the same, and about 40% were dropping off. And so if you're an agency out there and you're using a white label partner, chances are you're not growing as much as you think you should be going, or you're even going the opposite direction. That's what we found. And we felt we were the best. In fact, all of our numbers showed that we were growing. We were getting referrals, all this good stuff. But 80% is not really a good number when you're looking at the downside, right? Like 80% of our agency is not growing. And so we went out, what's going on? And what we realized was there's 4 pillars of scalability. And you have to have all four. You cannot not have one of these. So number one is obviously great product, right? Like, so you guys are incredible at Google Ads. I would hate to put my team up against yours in this world, but you have to be amazing at some type of product, whatever you're selling, because retention really matters as you scale. Right. Number two, operations, right? So it's one thing to manage one person, but once you get to 20, 30, 40, 50 people, you have to have the systems, technology, all this to scale and grow. Number three is prospecting and sales. You have to have something that is repeatable, that you can consistently bring in stuff. And then third is actually business intelligence, to be honest with you. When do you hire? When do you fire? When do you spend money? Kasim, you're not going into debt, right? This is a strategy that you've really thought about, right? So like, why do we do the things we do? Now, no one would argue with these three pillars, but what's intriguing is that all three of these pillars have to be very aligned. And what happens is they're not. So what you end up doing, everybody knows, like, go high level, right? Sean Clark, amazing. So we go over to Sean. Sean is our expert when it comes to systems. Like, dude, Sean, how could I grow my business? What should I do? And Sean's over there like, man, you should be selling more SaaS. SaaS is the root of all amazing things. Let me show you what you can do here. Let me distract you. Let me teach you how to sell it. Let me da-da-da-da-da. And then you go to your white label fulfillment company, and SEO tends to do really well. So the fulfillment company's like, dude, you know what you should do? Kasim, you should be selling some more SEO, dude, because it's going to be da-da-da-da-da. And then you go over to your sales coach, right? You know those coaches that you have that 90% of what they do is just teach you how to sell? Well, they're like, dude, Facebook ads. Oh, dude, you could sell Facebook ads like hotcakes, baby. Let's roll. And then you go over business intelligence, people like Dave Ramsey are telling you whatever, right? And these things all kind of go together, but they don't really flow together. So what you end up with is you end up with just systems and processes and sales that don't always congruently match, right? Hence, what's the solution? What's the solution? So we kept going out, and some idiot was like, JC, have you ever looked at franchising? And I was like, dude, why the heck would I want to buy a McDonald's? Like, I have no desire to have a McDonald's, Burger King. Like, that's what my mind goes. That's where most people go. He's like, dude, screw McDonald's. Because if you thought about Keller Williams, about Shelter Insurance, about Farmers Insurance, about like these really huge, and then he got saying, this is what really hit. He's like, in fact, go to any industry in the world, and I would say 90% of the companies you think of are either franchised or licensed. So if you look at real estate, when's the last time you met an independent realtor? Insurance. Look at food. If you go to across the state lines where you're not familiar with your local little hub, who can you think of? It's all franchise or licensed restaurants. You look at healthcare. You look at pretty much every segment of the big world, even Walmart. Walmart, what do they sell? Like, all of their products now are essentials, right? They're all licensed. Why is this? Why are you seeing this domination in the franchise licensing world over the last 50 years even? It's because of leverage. Because of leverage, right? When a bunch of these, so I'll give you the example of real estate. I think real estate is very similar to the agency world. You look 50 years ago, 40 years ago at real estate, bro, and every realtor in the country was independent. You didn't need a license. You didn't need any type of college education. In fact, it's similar to digital marketing. You didn't even sell your own properties. You sold someone else's property, right? Kind of like white label, right? And as long as you could communicate effectively, as long as you hustled, you could do really, really well. And then Century 21 came along. They were the first. And they just looked out and they was like, dang, Kasim, you spent $10,000 on a website. JC, you spent $10,000. In fact, there's 10,000 realtors across the US, and all of you guys have spent billions of dollars on websites alone. What if we came together and we built the best effing website you could possibly imagine? And we did it at a fraction of the cost, and we all used the same one. It would be way cheaper, way more effective. What if we built one system? All you guys operate in the same way. What if we built one technology? It was better than any technology any individual could build, but it was a fraction of the price. What if we built a brand and we built the best brand book, the most symbolic brand you could possibly do? They're super expensive. I mean, we spend $1 million, but it's still a fraction of the price, right? Like, how do we leverage each other together to go out and serve, right? And the reality is the leverage they had, how do you compete? How do you compete with Keller Williams? Well, you can't. You either got to join them or start another one. How do you you can't beat your prices. You can't even beat them in service because they have locations all across the US. You can't beat them in operations because they have amazing technology, right? And so where do you beat them? It becomes really, really difficult, right? And so what we are is we're on a path to stabilize the digital marketing world, to make it where agencies have more consistent growth. And essentially we do that in a stupid, simple way. And that is we bring all of these really stinking smart people together and we build one amazing product using all of our minds that we all can use and grow. And it's been fun, dude. We sold 19 franchises in year one, 19, which is fast. And our goal is to become the Chick-fil-A of digital marketing, you know, like Chick-fil-A, even if you don't agree with their values, that's cool. But you got to respect them, man, because they are true to them.
Well, what I love about Chick-fil-A is they force a level of continuity and quality. And they do that by, I mean, the owner has to work inside of the Chick-fil-A. You can't have the 20 Chick-fil-A's, you know what I mean? You're there and you care, and I think that shows pretty consistently. I'm curious though, and stop me when I start to say things that I'm not allowed to say. Hite Digital isn't the brand, right? When I buy, let's say I bought the franchise in Phoenix, am I Hite Phoenix, or do I overlay my brand on top of it? How does that work?
No, you become Hite Digital Phoenix, right? So okay. you become Hite, right? So our goal, and the beautiful thing about merging the brands is that, let's say, Kasim, let's say you started off and you only have 5 clients. But whenever you're talking to the public, it's not you, it's now Hite. So right. Now you go, even though you just got started, yeah, we actually just signed Texas A&M as a client. Yeah, we
manage $30 million in ad spend.
Yeah, we have, exactly, right? Yeah. Because we're under one brand. If you guys go to many different, if you're all individualized, now you lose that, you know, you lose that type of leverage.
How are you splicing, dicing geographically, like, or how do you figure out the exclusivity piece?
Yeah, good question. So what we do is that our goal is to have 2 to 3 agencies in every state. Right now in Texas, we have 4, but our goal is to have 2 to 3 agencies in every state in the US. We also have the territories in Canada, departments, territories, I don't know, whatever it is, territories in Canada. Our goal is to have 1 location per country in LATAM. And then we're moving into Spain, Europe, hopefully in 2024, I think is what we have planned. Our goal is to get up to about 120. I think we have 120 spots on the map in total, right? And exclusivity, you own the city. So once you own, let's say you own Dallas, if anybody else wants Dallas for Hite, the only way they can do that is through you, right? And so again, as we grow the brand, we prove the model, all this good stuff, like the multiplier is incredible. Like let's look at most agency owners. Most agency owners want to do one of 2 things. And then I've heard one that they hope never happens, but we need to be more prepared for it. They either want to hire a GM to take over, right? I'm tired I want to replace me. I don't want to go live on the beach. Or 2, they want to sell. I want to exit, right? Or 3, and this is the one that like we don't want to happen, but it's something we need to prepare for, is like we die and my wife inherits my agency. What happens, right? Or my husband. Let's switch to a new industry. Let's say you had a barbershop. What would be easier to sell, a sports clip or Kasim's barbershop? Which would be easier to sell?
The sports clip is just a cake
by far. Yeah. Wouldn't even. Yeah. And what would get a higher multiple?
Right.
The sports clip, right? Because an investor, I'm not talking about someone who wants to go buy an agency to work in, but an investor, someone who's got 10, 20, 30, 40 million, isn't trying to buy a job. They're trying to buy a systems, processes, a company that's rolling, right?
So are you selling these franchises to investors, or do you want people to run the agency on the day-to-day?
So as of right now, all of our franchisees are owner operated.
Okay.
All of them.
Is that a prerequisite, or would you be receptive to investors coming in over time?
So I'll speak to our from a legal standpoint, we do not have a requirement in our FDD that requires you to be owner operated. However, it has been a strong emphasis of our success. There's something about, we've even tested this, right? Like when we first wanted to grow and scale, we were already, we were in white label, we were already 100 and something team members. I was like, shoot, why don't I just start an office in Miami? Let's just roll with it. So I literally hired someone, put them in an office in Miami. But the problem is like they were an employee, right? No matter how much I incentivized them or whatever, it was either, do you want an entrepreneur to run that agency, or do you want an employee? You can't have both in most cases. Sometimes there's some unicorns out there, but in most cases, you're not going to have both. And so we found that even in our own stance, I can't hire managers to lead a franchise or lead an agency in the way I want them to. I have to make sure that they're owner operators.
How do you deal with the multivariant toolbox? So if you're the back office for these agencies, that means you have to know to a reasonable, let's say a B+ grade, you have to know SEO and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and organic social and content and video and like, I realize you've got 180 people and that's probably most of the answer, but you still need, I feel like that's running as many services as you have. That's how many businesses you have to run, because you need a triple PhD for every single one of those.
So that's a great question. And I think this is something where a lot of us, we look at the big agencies and we're like, okay, I want that. And we just believe that they started like that, right? So we launched Hite. We only did SEO and pay-per-click. And, we were 10, 15, 20 employees. We had 5 people in one, 5 people in the other. We were only product. Remember, we were white label. We didn't have salespeople. And we had teams. We had like captains of each product. And every time we add products, which we've been doing a lot of in the last years, every time we add product, the essential piece is we have to have a captain. We have to have someone that like leads that, right? And now we're on this verge, right? So we're actually adding more things. For example, one of our franchisees we brought on was huge in creative. I mean, like they had done some big brand books. I mean, we're talking $100,000, $200,000 brand books and websites and logos. So what do you think I did? Well, I was like, look, I want to offer this to my franchises. So why don't we create Hite Creative as a fulfillment company? You own X percentage, I own X percentage. We'll build it fully into the organization, but I want you to lead that division of fulfillment.
That's what I love about the franchise model is it's not just the information doesn't flow in one way, because you think about it and you're like, okay, here's the fulfillment center and the information flows to the franchisees and they sell it. But really the franchisees are the tip of the spear. And they're the ones that are out there, like grassroots and like, oh my goodness, hey, people really want SMS marketing, or they're really interested in, how to leverage programmatic or whatever. And that information makes its way back to you. And now all the franchisees are kind of informing each other and themselves and the central hub. So you just have way more tendrils out than anybody else will ever have.
Yeah. And I mean, the downside about entrepreneurship is it's lonely, right? Like, man, other owners don't understand, right? And I think this is actually really cool. Well, let me finish that statement. So like you still own 100% of your franchise. Like you own 100% of that LLC. It's your responsibility. You file taxes. It is 100% you. You're simply licensing the ability to use our name, our brand, our systems, our tech, our people, our right? So I think that's very important that we distinct. Like it's not you're giving up your rights as an entrepreneur. Like you actually have way more rights than you think. But here's the interesting thing. We all as agency owners have problems. Right? Like even you, Kasim, you've got 100 problems right now. And how do we solve those? Well, we seek experts. We look at coaches. We look at friends. We're like, hey, here's my scenario. But at the end of the day, no matter how you go, no matter what expert, no matter what friend, they're only going to know the information you provide. They're not going to know the context of your team and how happy your team is or sad your team is. They're not going to know your exact systems and how they operate within your business. They're not going to know your history nor your team's history. They're not going to know all the context of solving that issue. But in our company, they do. So when Adam goes up and like, dude, JC is such a dick. Like, I can't believe this guy. Everyone else is like, dude, I know. I'm working with the exact same things you are. And when we end up having the same problem, now it's so much easier to find that solution.
Yeah, now we have the same solution and the solution is scalable.
Sure. Exactly, right? And so for me, like the most interesting part, one of the interesting parts about this is how quickly we can solve problems, because we don't have to go back and explain the context, explain what's going on. Oh yeah, but sir, or hey, but like, no, they know exactly the team and what we're working with and what our weaknesses and what our strengths are. And now, dude, it's just about like on one side, I have the franchisees. Okay, how do we bring on the best partners in the world? And then number two, it's about fulfillment. Like, dude, literally 2 hours ago, I was on the phone with a guy who owns they do radio and TV. That's all they do. And I'm like thinking about acquiring their company or acquiring a percentage of their company just so I can have the fulfillment option, for my team. We just made a deal last week to acquire a swag company, right? Like if it never sells anything, huge. Who cares?
Yeah.
But now all my franchisees have an option, and I have some that they only sell SEO. I have some that sell everything. I have some that only focus on creative. That's power to you, bro. You
give them the toolbox and they decide which hammer they want to wield. Let me ask you this is a little bit of a departure. Like we've sold your franchises now. Everybody knows that they need to go buy a Hite Digital franchise. Where do you see the future of digital marketing going? And I'm gonna scaffold that question. You have to be ahead of the curve because of who you are and what you're doing, right? You're the fulfillment house. So if I'm an agency, I need to be able to go to the toolbox and pull out the tool that I need in that moment. which means you probably need to be about at least 6 months, but I'd say 18 months ahead of the curve, because there's, the training, the process creation, the development of this assembly line that would be necessary in order to provide that service to the franchisee. And I know you well enough now to know that you're probably about 18 months ahead of the curve, because you're a super sharp cat and you're thinking ahead. Where's DM going? Like, what are the resources you're hiring for now? What should people be looking for on the horizon? What are anybody watching this? What should they be worried about that they haven't thought about, but what's going to land in 18 months?
So you may know more about, you're on the latest edge. So you may disagree or agree with this. Man, I think all the agencies that have a product, like I do SEO, I do PPC, I do Facebook ads. I think in 24 months, it's going to be really difficult for you to scale and grow, because I think, and I know Google, for example, and Facebook, they're both working incredibly hard to make their systems, their algorithms, everything so intuitive that you don't need JC or Kasim anymore. So therefore, I think the only differentiator is going to be how you connect these systems. So my job is going to go less about managing Facebook, managing TikTok, managing Google, and more about how these systems all play together, right? And so it's more about the website, it's more about the branding, more about the content, and more about how I can tie these platforms together and utilize information between them. Because what I don't see Google sharing information with Facebook directly. Like, I don't think they're gonna like cross over. In fact, I think Google isn't gonna end up, I don't know. I think that, I hate to say it, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if Google had to separate, entities before too long, right? And they're already
terrified of an antitrust. Yeah, it's shocking that it hasn't actually already taken place, given the steps the government has taken historically. In steel, telecom. But every time Uncle Sam goes in and tries to break up a conglomerate, all they do is make it stronger. They basically, it's like now government enforced separation, but it's all still under a single ownership. And because the government assisted in, kind of helping you now spread out, divide and conquer. I'm not too worried about the legislative repercussions from an internal perspective, what would happen to Google or Facebook or Meta or whoever. What I am worried about, though, are the legislative repercussions, like the privacy rules, for instance, the accessibility laws. There are some things that, one pen stroke could take down entire industries, and it has. And generally speaking, it's probably for the best. If you look what happened to like telemarketers, or what's about to happen to the SMS fools, or, email marketing back in the day before spam really got clamped down on. But the legislative bodies are getting more and more and more intrusive, as seen with the most recent privacy legislation worldwide. GDPR was like very handsy. And I don't even think there's anything wrong with it. I think people's privacy should be protected. But it's not easy to comply with. And so now here's this law that's opaque that I'm responsible for adhering to. And the guy who wrote it, is, in adult diapers. He's geriatric. He has no idea what the hell the freaking internet is, but he's sitting there and I'm, being crueler than I should be. All that to say, I think our biggest risks are legislative, but I think from the outside, not necessarily from the inside. I didn't mean to go on a departure. It was just my
and I think another angle of that's going to happen. I don't think there's any way to prepare for this necessarily, except for just like learn your trade and do really good work. But I think companies so what people don't know is, like, if you think about real estate, as we go back to that example, you have to have a license to sell dirt. Like, you realize that, right? Like, the government finally was like, dude, no, you have to. Like, it wasn't just the government doing this. People lobbied, like Century 21, Keller Williams. These guys lobbied to make that happen because they wanted to make the barrier of entry like harder, right? So there's companies like us. There's companies like, I would imagine even there's other. Digital marketing has even worked on certificates before in the past. You've got Google that's tried to do this, but I do think there's going to be some certificates to be an actual marketer in the future. You're going to have a license to do it. It's one of the only industries, I believe, in the world where you give someone thousands of dollars selling an ROI on an investment. We call it an investment, and there's no regulation. Like, there's nowhere else where you give someone money expecting a return, except for real estate. And I think real estate will just be right after marketing. I think it's going to have to be regulated by some sector, whether that's the private sector in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And just like the world starts to understand, like, hey, you need an Apple logo in order to work on my, my MacBook, or something from the government. And so I don't know, I think it's going to shift, which means I think it's good for people like you and me. It's good for those that have like quality work. It's just going to be bad for all those people that are just getting started, that are trying to get, that don't know what the crap they're doing. I had a guy call me the other day. We haven't done white label in a very long time. He's like, hey, JC, I just sold my first client. I'm looking for someone to fulfill it. And I'm like, what? Like,
why did you? Yeah.
Shouldn't you have, you know, like, I think it'll stop that, which is good for all of us.
Well, it scares me. You know, there's a quote by Mark Twain that I like. He says that the greatest fencer doesn't need to fear the second greatest fencer. He needs to fear somebody who's never fenced before. And as a Google Ads agency, I'm not worried about, you know, we're number one. I'm not worried about number 2, 3, 4, 5 at all. I've seen the way that they function. All they do is copy me. But there's some kid out there in a basement somewhere that's going to rock my freaking world, because he or she is going to figure something out that I've never figured out, have great idea. And I actually tell that to some of my clients, like, if you can afford me, you got a niece or a nephew living in the basement, they could probably crush this. And it worries me if we're going to build a meritocratic ecosystem. Well, no, let me back up. It worries me if we're going to build an ecosystem that's not purely meritocratic and requires that guy or gal, that, you know, the newbie, puts them in a position to where they couldn't enter the sandbox right away. I actually, and now it helps me in the short term, but it actually hurts me in the long term, because it hurts the sharpening of the saw of the world that I live in. You know, it actually, I mean, you're lowering the bar, you're making the challenges less likely, less, you know, often. So I don't know, man, this is maybe more philosophical than we wanted to get, but
look, my deal is I'm not one normally to say I agree with this or disagree. I try not to actually make a hard stance on anything, because I've learned my stances change too often.
The older I get, like, the more wrong I am just about everything. Yeah.
I just like to be aware of ideas. Like, that's really where I'm, like, even myself, like, on one side, I'm this capitalistic, like, I want to make money, I want to grow, but if you look at Hite, we're a super socialistic company. Like, every single child at Hite is on full tuition, right? Like, we literally are talking with university, where every single one of our team members get to go to the US for free education. We have more benefits than you could possibly imagine. Like, we're very socialistic in how we work, right? And so, like, both sides, you know, and so I don't know, it's interesting.
Well, it's context dependent, right? I don't know where I heard this, but it was interesting to me. It said that like, in the nucleus that is my family, I'm basically a totalitarian regime. And then, you know, as we move a little bit further out, like one standard deviation removed, let's say, then we're kind of like a communist country, in that everybody's helping each other, and from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. And as you move further out into like my community, the people that I know and love, we're sort of socialists. And then as you move further out, like now we're you know, capitalists with the heart. And as you move further out, we're like, you know, basically free market, laissez-faire, death to anybody who doesn't want to work thing. And so it really, you know, context is so important. And we're now going to get canceled. Talk to me. You've got a big badass event coming up, and it's super exciting. What
you do have a crazy cool event coming up, because you're going to be there.
I'm going to be, yeah, I am going to be there. That's how we met, actually. And it's in Costa Rica. It's in August. Tell us about it. What's the deal?
Dude, I think, so the event is only for agency owners. So the 50% of you guys that are heavy into PPC, that love PPC, and probably isn't the right event for you, but if you own an agency, this is going to be, my goal is to make this the event of the year. And we're doing a couple things different. Number one, big stage, huge freaking names, amazing thoughts. Everything is 100% geared towards agency ownership and how do we grow and scale. In fact, even growth beyond ownership. But here's the deal. It's still a small conference, actually. We only have 400 spots at the conference, 400 spots, which is a really small event.
Dude, that's super intimate, especially for the names that you're dropping. Like, you're actually going to get to hang out with these people, right? Like, they're, you know,
dude, I don't know if you saw this. Kevin Harrington is one of the guys there, and he's like, straight up, like, dude, I will walk away from this event with at least 1, 2, and hopefully 3 partners. Like, he's straight up set. So we're actually gonna, if you're going to the event, you're gonna get an opportunity to pitch Kevin Harrington. But we got Kevin Harrington, we got Damon John, we got Rachel Miller, we got Jen Gottlieb. We've got Jesse Itzler, dude. Are you familiar with Jesse?
Jesse? Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I've seen him speak a couple times, and he's just like, he bounces off the walls, man. He's so much fun. Probably
my favorite speaker right now, and has been for a couple of years. I'm not gonna lie, like one of my favorite speakers. And then we got Willie Robertson. Actually, somebody the other day was like, Willie Robertson. What if you know Duck Dynasty from Louisiana? He's the head guy on Duck Dynasty. And dude, if this guy he makes duck calls for a living. Duck calls for a living. If he can brand himself where pretty much 90% of the United States knows who he is and what he's selling, he's got something big to teach us in terms of how do we brand ourselves.
Right.
Duck calls. Like, what the crap is this, right? So he's going to be talking about a lot about branding. How do we create an impact? I mean, this guy blew up with his TV show and so on and so forth. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of
When
fun.
you got some people that folks might not have heard of, but are still going to like, I mean, the content quality, you know, Adam Lyons, he's a buddy of ours.
Yep.
Adam from, I mean, business growth, M&A, like creatively structured deals. Nobody knows what Adam knows. And to have access to folks like that and to have access to the type of folks that are going to just be showing up to the event, man, I've never not benefited a multiple from doing something like this. Events, masterminds, you know, like it's just always so, I don't know why I'm selling
Just
this.
signed Pete Vargas. Do you know Pete?
Yeah, I know Pete. Is he coming?
So he's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're being really strict with the lineup, and I promise you guys, like it is going to be out of this world.
How would you introduce Pete? What is he? He's the world authority on speaking, right? Like he gets people on stages.
I would say he's the world's authority, on speaking / selling from stage, right? Like
Selling
it's
from
not
stage,
just about speaking; it's speaking with intention. And he was incredible. He was actually a retired youth minister, actually by trade. So
yeah, well, I've heard his story. He started speaking at church, and that's kind of like how he found his calling.
That's right. That's right. So today's world, like, and just as a secret insight, so Hite, I think we'll hit in the top in 500 list, right? So 180 people, 4 years, 180 people. That's pretty fast growth. And we've never, I don't think, maybe we've spent $1,000 on Facebook ads. Like we've never done telemarketing. We've never, and I don't think you've done much of this stuff, you know, either. You've done Facebook ads.
I've tried everything
all the time, but like we've grown by building a brand. We want to get on stages. We want our people on stages. Dude, the power of getting on stage in an REI conference with 100 people, you will walk away with 5 to 10 clients if you can position right. And that's the value that Pete brings. It's going to be amazing stuff. And on top of that, one thing that I really struggle with, and I don't know about you, Kasim, is that I really like my family. And so I like taking them. I hate leaving my family. So we've actually set up this event to welcome families. So when you buy a ticket, you're actually buying a room. Everything is taken care of from literally you just land. Our people get you to the hotel, all you can eat, all you can drink, 4 nights, 3 days, bring the wife, bring the husband, bring the kids. It's all set up to be very, you know, ideally family centric as much as possible. Or even, I don't know, you can tell me if you like this idea, but I'm brainstorming the idea of having 1 or 2 talks go on outside of the main stage that are geared towards spouses of entrepreneurs. Your spouse is an entrepreneur. How the hell do you deal with this? Like that's going to be the title. And so I'm thinking about like, how do we incorporate families as much as possible? My kids will be there. My wife will be there. And
how many kids do you have?
I got 2. One is just about to turn 4 and one's about to turn 1 actually.
Boy, girl distribution.
The girl is the oldest and little boy.
No, I got a 4 and a 6-year-old, 2 little boys.
So I'm just behind you a couple of years. So
it just gets worse. Like there's no ebb, there's no flow. It just gets harder and harder. Yeah, I'm joking, dude. It's like, it's amazing.
Dude, my kid, they're starting to have energy like nobody's business. And now I know why my family's so crazy, dude. I get it. You know, these little munchkins are a lot of hard work. So
yeah, they're nuts. We put our kids in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Dude, if somebody told me you can either send your children to school or to BJJ, and I'm not being hyperbolic, I'm not being dramatic, I would send them to, like, if for whatever reason there was like some weird, you know, dystopian government mandate where it's like there's not enough resources for the world and it's either they can go to school or they can go to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I'd send them to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like what they learn, you know, I mean, school, they're going to figure out reading, rat, and arithmetic. Like that's going to land some way, somehow. Not to disparage school, not to say that it's not important. I think it is. And my kids go to a Montessori school and it's amazing. And I'm obsessed with Montessori. But what they learn and I imagine this is most martial arts. I mean, it's invaluable. It's so, not that you're asking me for my opinion, but I just got to tell you, dude, like the impacts I've seen on my boys, the community that they're around, the people that are part of those community, it's unreal. It's like become our church. You know, it's like where we go to hang out, where we go to meet other, you know, sort of like-minded folks. My kids are there 4 days a week, sometimes 5, and they just get the biggest kick out of it. And they're learning, strength, honor, discipline, truth, integrity, like things that are very conceptual. No matter where you put them elsewhere in the world, you're teaching them out of a book. But when you're out there on a mat and somebody's throwing blows at you, like those things become really very real very quickly. I've just gotten the biggest kick out of seeing my boys grow there.
Dude, I love it. And I love that you bring that up, because for me, like, the business is a means to an end. I love the company. I love the game, but it's nothing more than that now. I mean, like, I really want to be able to look back. And in fact, the conference is called the Commitment Summit, Growth Beyond Ownership. And how does family tie into this? How does faith tie into this? How does being a good leader look in tomorrow's world, right? Like, and I really believe if you want to grow in this decade, is not about the money and the finance, because employees don't have to work for you anymore. They can go do whatever the crap they want. Like, you have to have some substance to what you believe in, to what you're doing, to how equitable like you are among your team members. And this is all good. I mean, like, people should be good people, inherently, and we should love and serve the world around us. And so for me, like, that stuff gets me really, really pumped. Is, gosh, though, I will say my daughter is getting, like, she loves dance and creativeness and drawing and art. And even though I will love her to death, no matter what she chooses, I'm like, really wanted her to be able to take over the company, but we'll see. She may just run the art department, or who knows. There's a long ways to go, but I'm trying to teach her math and, like, entrepreneurship, and it's tough.
Yeah, it's funny. They just come out the way they are, man. Like, that whole blank canvas thing, that's a lie. Like, your children are who they are, and then it's just our job to kind of, like, help guide them. I don't feel like I had any influence on my kids' personality at all.
Yeah, right. So, but it's fun, dude. It's fun. And I was actually speaking at an event just the other day, and my daughter ran up on stage with me and was literally drawing on the, what do you call it in English?
Big easels.
Yeah, like an easel. And she started drawing on my event. Didn't even faze me, bro. I just kept going and talking, and it actually ended up being the I think someone told me, it's like, the only thing I learned from your lesson, I think they meant it in a positive way. I took it in a positive. The only thing I learned is that our kids are number one, and no matter where they come in, we give them attention and we roll with it, right? And we don't try to push our kids away from life. And I was like, that's awesome. That's the best thing you learned. But I think it's real and it's honest. And I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun in the agency world. I think the agency world is entrepreneurship sucks. It's in every way, shape, form, or fashion, but if done right over time, dude, it can be just such a blessing. We've never had an opportunity in the history of the United States where people could so easily jump into an industry, learn their trade, really get passionate about their trade, and make a really good money fairly quickly, Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
If people want to go to the Commitment Summit, where do they go?
thecommitmentsummit.com, or find me anywhere on social media, JC Hite, and shoot me a PM. Or, oh, by the way, Kasim, I actually made a discount code for you. If they use your last name, if they use Islam, capital A, you're going to get 10% off the ticket, whatever they choose. So nice. Super easy. Super easy.
And what's it cost? What does it cost to go?
Yeah, bro. So it's an all-inclusive. Everything is included with the discount. It's gonna be right at $4,500. That's for 2 people in your hotel. You can get your kids as well, but 2 people, that's 4 nights, 3 days, all you can eat, all you can drink, luxury resort. I mean, even the worst hotel room in the entire resort has still a spa, jacuzzi, tub, whatever you want to call it, outside on the deck overlooking the ocean. Like, it is absolutely incredible. You literally got to fly there. We take care of everything else. And I will tell you, we've got a ton of surprise and delight stuff, like literally planned the entire week. And so it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. August 8th through 10th in Costa Rica. Everything but flights included. Meet a bunch of badasses, hang out with us.
Should be very intimate. Yeah, very intimate. And we're actually
only got 400 seats. How many do you have left?
So actually, so we've got 210 spots left, and we just opened sales on the 1st.
Okay.
I'm actually hoping to sell out this, like, end of January. I'm hoping to sell out.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm rooting for you, and I'll be there. I'm excited for it, and super appreciate.
Your whole family's coming, right? Or
my little wife's coming. We're not bringing our kiddos. We actually have a wedding to go to the month before in Puerto Vallarta or something. So it's like another, like, the kids are going to be on the beach around family, whatever. And we thought we'd like maybe travel fatigue them. So they're going to be with my mom.
I love it. I love it, brother. Well, I'm excited, dude. Thanks. Anything I can do, reach out to me on any of the social networks, JC Hite, and dude, we'll make it happen, bro. I'm pumped.
Yeah, you're a rock star, bro. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day. So if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.